Hi there, and welcome to another video bringing you the best insider tips and information to help improve your riding and training, and maybe even help you with your horse show placings. If it's your first time here, remember to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any new videos coming out. Today's video is brought to you by Charity, who was so thoughtful and sent in some pictures for us to do a position review. So if you would like to have your own position review done, then remember, send in your own photos from the side, preferably, to thistleridge@hotmail.com. Position review today is for Charity, and thank you so much for sending all these lovely photos in. And let's get started. As always, when we're doing the position reviews, we're going to just go over what we like, some improvements that you can do, and some exercises that you can do to help improve your riding position. And remember, these are just a snapshot of what's happening at that moment. So if I see that you're a little ahead, a little behind, your legs are slipped, that is just something that's happening at that moment, and maybe you don't always ride like that. It just happens that that's when the photo was taken. So here's our first photograph. One thing I'd like to say is that, she's really dressed up. Looks like she's in a horse show. Love those sheepskin saddle pads. It looks really great. And you can see here she's got her eyes up. Okay, first of all, I like the way this person is turned out, what she's wearing for her ride. She's got breeches and boots. Love that she's got a belt on. If your riding pants have belt loops on it, then you should be wearing a belt and gloves. Love that too. Really like the straight back this rider has on her position. Her back is straight. You can see that. I put a green line here where her back is nice and straight. She's not rounded or she's not rounded over her back, but she is nice and flat, looking up straight ahead. Really like that. You can see that she's over top of the jump. The horse is going over top of the jump. I'd like to see a little bit more of a release in her hands so that the reins are a little bit loose. You can see that her hand is following the horse's mouth, which is nice, but I'd like to see just a little bit more release. And when you're doing your release, remember to push your hands right onto the neck. So this part of your hand is pushed right against the horse's neck, so it helps support your upper body. You can see here there's a little bit of a floating release, and that just gives a sloppy hand position, and you need to have your upper body supported a little bit more. Now let's look at her leg position. Her leg position looks like she's rotated her calf onto the horse so that her toes are coming out, and the back of her riding boot, so that the seam of the back of her riding boot is getting onto the horse's sides. So that means that she's rotating from her knee, and her toes are going from straight ahead to rotating outward, and her whole leg is twisted outward. Keep the weight on your baby toe to help keep your foot parallel to the horse, or more parallel to the horse. We want to keep the inside of your calf on the horse, not the back of your calf, but the inside of your calf. And to help do that, keep the weight down into your heel and pushing the weight equally on your ball of your foot and slightly more on the outside part of your foot to help turn your toe in. So it's not this way, but slightly turned out at, what's this? If this is 0 and that's 90, a little bit more, like about 40 degrees. You're got your toes stuck out too far. Keep your toes to the front. Here's your hands, your hand position. You can see from looking up your hand, you have a soft hand, which we really like. Following hand, your elbows are relaxed, but you have to have your hands pressed onto the neck of the horse and keep your hands level. It looks like your left hand is slightly higher. Maybe you're doing a turn, maybe you want to influence the lead, I don't know, but it looks like you're a little bit off balance. Your shoulders are twisted slightly, and you want to keep your hands level as you're going over top of the jump. Your seat is in the over top of the pommel of the saddle, and we like to have your seat closer to the back of the saddle. Here that your seat is well ahead of the horse. Your seat is over the pommel of the saddle. We like to have your seat closer to the middle of the saddle, over the seat of the saddle, more towards the back of the saddle. So when your seat is over top of the pommel like this, it tells the judge that you are standing up in your stirrups, and it gets to be kind of mechanical. So you have to be able to feel the horse is coming, and close your hip angle without standing up in your stirrups. Standing up in your stirrups is a way for riders to stay with the horse, but it's oftentimes you get ahead of the horse, and this is what's happening here. So here's the culprit here, is that you're pinching with your knees. Your knees are well into the saddle, which is okay, but you are pinching and rotating. So your leg is slipped back and your upper body tips forward. And the pivot point is your knee. So if we were to hold you at your knee, we could turn you back and forth. And that's what's happening right here, is you're pinching with your knee and you're pivoting forward onto your knee, and that makes your lower leg swing back and your upper body go too far forward. This is where we like to have your seat more towards the seat of the saddle, more towards the cantle of the saddle, and that'll help bring your body more in balance with the horse. Once again, beautiful. Eyes are up, looking forward, looking straight, and you can really see here that you're pinching with your knees and your lower leg is slipped back. Pinching with your knees, lower leg is slipped back. Your seat is well over the pommel of the saddle, and if we took that horse out from underneath you, you'd fall right on your stomach. So we want to have the idea in your head that if you would take the horse away from you, from underneath you by, I don't know, magic, that you would be able to land on your feet and stay in balance with yourself as well as with the horse. Here's that all familiar straight line, shoulder, knee, toe, and you can see when we draw a straight line, shoulder, knee, toe, that the line is, well, very much at an angle. What's that? Almost, that's quite an angle. So if we were to take that horse away from underneath you, that you would fall onto your stomach, onto your face. So this green arrow shows where we'd like to have your leg positioned a little bit more, pushing your heels down and forward, closer to the girth, so that you can keep your balance over top of the stirrup rather than onto your knee. Keep it over top of your stirrup with the weight down into your stirrup and into your heel rather than onto your knee. You can see that this is a pivot point. A few comments on your schooling, or if this was a horse show, even if it's an in-house schooling show, safety is really important. I noticed on some of the jump standards that the jump cups were left on. Please remove the jump cups. It's just a safety thing. If there's not poles in the jump cups, remove the jump cups. It's just safety. And there's a lot of poles on the ground. There are one takeoff rail, a ground line on the takeoff side. That's great. But when you have one of the middle poles up higher, it's not correct. So remove the other things that aren't being used as jumps, or put a filler in there rather than having these poles on the ground. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the horse and the horse's jumping. This is a nice little horse here, the bay horse. He's got his knees up, and you can see he's basculing quite a bit here. Basculing means rounded curve throughout his body, using himself properly over top of the jump. So this is a nice jump. I just put a green line there where you can see the bascule, which is the horse rounding over top of his jump. This is the little bay horse. It looks like it's getting tired. Maybe it's at the end of the day. Its nostrils are flared, and he's okay with his left front, or she is okay with his left front, but his right front leg is getting tired. His knees are up okay, but he's quite loose below, and it looks like he may even have knocked the jump with this foot here. Let me just see if I can look at it. So that's an indication. And if you do touch a jump without knocking it down, the judge does mark that down, because it's a sign that the horse is getting tired. It's a sign that the horse isn't quite as careful with its legs as it should be. And a horse that doesn't tick the jumps, if everything else is all the same, if it has all its spots and everything is beautiful, a horse that really has a hard knock that maybe should have been a rail will place lower than a horse that doesn't have a tick on the jump. So what kind of exercises can this rider do to help improve her riding position? One thing you can do, and it's always a good idea to include 10 or 15 minutes of this, is riding without stirrups. Riding without stirrups every time you ride will help develop your seat and leg and balance when you're riding your horse. It doesn't have to be a lot. You can do walk, a little bit of trot when you are riding and doing your practice rides or doing a training session. Don't be afraid to ride without stirrups at the walk. It's very helpful. Another great exercise to do is practicing your 2-point position over trot rails. Set up some trot rails. Set up some trot rails. Set up some trot rails, depending on your horse's stride, and go through the trot rails at rising trot and at 2-point trot and at sitting trot to help develop your seat and your legs and get your balance over top of your legs. Great exercise is to have a 2-point position, putting your hands, one hand behind your back on your lower back, then your other hand on your back on your lower back. So you're going one time with holding on to the reins with your right hand, and one time going through the trot rails holding on to the reins on your left hand. That's a very simple exercise that you can do to help balance on your own legs. Very important not to balance on the horse's mouth. If you need to, use a do not balance on the horse's mouth. If you find yourself falling back in the saddle, get a neck strap so you can hold on to it so you don't fall back on the horse's back. What most likely you will do is probably tip forward. So this is a very good exercise. 2-point, do rising trot on the short sides of the ring, 2-point down the long sides of the ring when you're out riding. If you have any questions, go to Amazon.com and take a look at this book right here. It's a Kindle and Kindle format. And it's got a list of excellent exercises that you can do to help improve your riding and develop your base of support. My name is Laura, and if you'd like to improve your riding and training, or generally like other horsey related stuff, remember to subscribe. Thanks now, bye. And you know what? I forgot to say this last time. Go hug your horse. Go hug your horse. Give him a treat. Thanks now, bye.